Welcome to the Wired to Hunt podcast. This week on the show, we are continuing our new series exploring the habits, mindsets, methods, and routines of the best deer hunters in the world. And today our guest is the one and only Andrae D'Acquisto.
Welcome to the Wired to Hunt podcast, your guide to the whitetail woods. Presented by First Light, creating proven, versatile hunting apparel for the stand, saddle, or blind. First Light. Go farther, stay longer. And now, your host, Mark Kenyon.
All right, welcome to the Wired to Hunt podcast brought to you by First Light. And today we are continuing our new series. As I just mentioned, this is our Mindsets of the Whitetail Masters series, in which we are trying to get a behind the scenes look at, what's going on in the minds of these absolute top tier elite deer hunters. What are their mindsets? What are their philosophies? What are the habits and routines and little things that they do and little things that they believe in that continue to help them have consistent deer hunting success? That's what we're trying to figure out. So far, we've spoken with John Eberhart, Ben Rising, and now today, Andrae D'Acquisto. Andrae is pretty legendary within the whitetail hunting world. He's the founder of Lone Wolf, now Lone Wolf Custom Gear as well. He was a part of the Whitetail Addictions TV show, still is, and he is just truly a master and an innovator within the whitetail world. So many of the tactics and strategies that folks use now, in large part, stem from Andrae's kind of kicking this aggressive mobile hunting movement off, decades ago. He's still doing that today with incredible success. And so my hope was to try to get a better understanding of why that is the case, of what's going on behind the scenes, or what is it about Andrae's personality, or about his drive, or about his motivations that has led to all of this. I think those are some of the things that I'm starting to pick up on as we have these conversations. In some cases with these guys, they don't even necessarily have a specific habit or routine or mindset that they explicitly, overtly, realize that they're following or realize that they're implementing. But there are things going on behind the scenes that maybe even are happening without them realizing, that all seem to be in common. These people have tremendous drive. They are very, very goal oriented. They are unwilling to accept failure in the way that they define it. They are able to push through whatever challenges face them. They are dog-headed. They are determined, and they learn. I think that's a key thing, is that they have learned from their own experiences. They've let their eyes, their experiences inform what they do. They are not beholden to some magazine article or to some preconceived notion of the past. Those are a few things that have stood out to me so far. And I think you're going to see some of that pop up here in my conversation with Andrae, and a lot more. So I will just let Andrae speak for himself now. This is another great one. I think we're all going to learn something here today. I'll give you one more plug. I mentioned this last week. We have a new educational series from MeatEater for whitetail hunters. This is for newer deer hunters or people that just kind of want to shore up their foundation and make sure that they are, locked and loaded on all of those core foundational whitetail concepts, things you just have to have drilled down before the season starts. So we cover topics and really some of the biggest, most common questions we get. Our first episode that just came out recently was all about what deer eat and what times of year they eat different things, and how to determine what deer are feeding on right now, and the importance of scouting and understanding the right here and now aspect of deer food. We also are going to cover tracks. We're going to cover rubs and scrapes and droppings and calling and impacts of weather and lots of stuff like that. So make sure you're subscribed to the MeatEater Clips YouTube channel. So this is like where our short form content is going to live now. So that's MeatEater Clips. Subscribe there. Take a look at our most recent video. Please give it a like. Subscribe to that channel. Give that a watch. More to come soon. Thank you for following along. Share it with anyone who you think can benefit from this stuff. And same goes for this podcast, of course. I've been hearing some good things about the first couple episodes. I hope you are feeling the same way, and I'm going to do my very best to make sure these next few episodes are even better. So with that said, and without any further ado, let's get to my chat with Andrae D'Acquisto. All right, with me back on the show, we've got Mr. Andrae D'Acquisto. Andrae, thank you so much for joining me.
Hey, no problem.
I greatly appreciate every time that you make time to speak. It means the world to me, and I know our audience is always really happy about it. So as I told you off air, we've got this new series going on right now in which we're trying to get a different look at how people achieve whitetail success. Rather than asking people, where do you put your tree stands? What's your favorite time of year to hunt? Rather than those kind of like surface level questions, I'm trying to kind of look under the hood, like see like what are the things going on in the best of the best whitetail hunters' minds that help them have so much success. So those are the kinds of questions I'm going to run you through today. It's going to be a little different. So hopefully you're up for a change of pace. Does that sound good?
Always up for a change of pace.
All right. So what I want to kind of start with is a little bit of an understanding about how you define success. So really, just to kick us off, simply that, Andrae, how do you define deer hunting success for yourself?
For me, it would be harvesting the animal that I set my goal out for. I'll know in advance, know the animals that I'm going to be hunting, and actually getting on those deer and getting them on video. We have the show Whitetail Addictions now, so a successful hunt would be target buck on video and getting good footage, self filming. So that's where I'm at in my days now.
Is there any scenario in which you don't kill a buck, but you would still view it as a success?
I don't know how it would be a success. So I have multiple tags, multiple states. No, I guess for me it wouldn't be a success unless actually there was a dead deer on video at the end of the season.
Fair enough. So
I know I can discuss failure.
Well, that's my next question then is okay. How do you define deer hunting failure?
A full season over 100 days of chasing around a deer, getting your opportunity and blowing it big time, which was one of the worst scenarios I've had in a lot of years. Happened to me last year. And I still, normally I can blow it off, get it over with, but the scenario, the situation I was in any other year, any other years past, there's no way this deer would have made it out of there. And I hit the thing high over the spine and ended up living. So that's a big failure.
Yeah, that's brutal. So what do you do with that? Like after that happens, how do you process it? How do you try to come back from that?
The weird thing is that I always go back and replay what happened in my mind time and time again. And as long as I come up with the same scenario, I wouldn't have done anything different. It just, whatever happened. I got locked down with another huge buck. I hunt pretty low, so I'm 12 feet off the ground. And there's another deer that's basically got an idea something's up, and it's within 10 yards of the stand, staring straight through me. And I'm facing him, and the other buck is like at 8 yards to the right of me. Ugh. And I got to go from there now and get to that deer before it gets on behind some pines and out of the scenario. And it was like I was just locked down, froze up. Like normally I just would not even pay attention to another deer. I would just make the move and go to shoot that deer. But this thing was literally, I wear a head net down, and I get away with murder on it. These deer look my way, but they don't basically see me or can't figure out what I am. But being so close and so low, I figured I'd just play it out, and at some point in time, he'd just take a turn the other way with his head or give me that little opportunity to shift my butt on a stand and get quartered on that. So this deer was on my, obviously on my weak side and starting to get by me. And it's, I literally had to, at the last minute, just jump up, swing around a stand, lean out, and get a shot off before it got between 2 pines. So, and whenever I do that and I lean right, I always end up shooting high. But that's what happened. I can't even go back to the same spot on the ground and look at the stand site and everything. And it's like, how the hell did this even happen to me? So, but long and short of it, that was a big failure. That was my main target buck. I did chase around some other deer, but I mean, I was just on him like a hound all year, all over the property, and all boils down to one minute. You know the song, and I blew it on this one. So
yeah. Do you have any favorite failure in the past? Like, is there another failure you can think of in your history of deer hunting that ended up really helping you, that you ended up really learning from? Could you tell me about that?
I don't know if it'd be a failure, but a deer I shot in Wisconsin many years ago ended up being like the number 2 in the state. I almost closed the deal on that deer the year before. He was probably 170-ish. Actually, it was 174 or something. We found his sheds anyhow. But I mean, it was literally within a second of movement that the deer just decided to turn back around and head in the swamp. But if I'd have killed that deer, I'd have never killed the deer at 189 inches. So that's a failure, and I talk about that a lot. Sometimes a lot of those deer that you don't get or tie into. I don't know. It's nice that you're forced now to let that deer get a year bigger, and sometimes they do get bigger and around for you to hunt. So that one worked out for me.
Yeah. Is there any deer like that got away for one reason or another, whether bad luck or a mistake on your part or something? Has there been any one of those that got away that then you learn from in a dramatic way?
Oh, learned a lesson on it getting away.
Or something about that hunt that, even though it didn't end up well that year, because of that hard lesson you learned, you killed that deer in the next year, or you killed a lot of deer in the subsequent decades. Like, I've made a few screw ups in the past that, man, it cost me that deer, but I never made that same mistake again,
Oh, that way wise. I'd have to go way, way back in my hunting career, probably to find those, because there was tons of mistakes that came up to becoming a pretty efficient hunter.
Yeah.
The things I learned on scent, the things I learned about camo and deer's habits probably helped down the road. I've keyed in over the years and over the decades that complete and utter surprise attack. I call it a virgin sit. Mm-hmm. You're in your best scenario. First time in, never been in that stand before. You scoured it out, you got the sign, and there's your point right there, and now you ambush. To me, it is absolutely criminal, and this is what happened to me last year, that a deer can get within bow range of your stand and get out without getting killed. That should not happen. Everything should be prepared right. You go through your scenario when you set up your stand. And when you mobile hunt, and you hunt like I hunt, every stand and every tree is a complete new setup. So there's a little trimming that has to be done on there. Some limbs got to be pulled out of the way. You got to play scenarios in your head. So, it's game time. And a lot of these spots are so, I read the sign and I know I'm getting my opportunity tonight. It just happened 3 years ago too. There's another one I actually missed a deer. I haven't missed a deer in ages, and I missed this thing big. But I knew I could even told my wife, I told my friend that deer's getting killed tonight. From camera until I got what happened to the scenario. He's going to come out through that draw. He's been coming out all year checking that scrape, and I'll be there waiting. Well, you do all that, and if a deer comes in within these ranges that you can shoot, it's just, to me, it's just criminal that you didn't be able to get a chance off, or the excuses, a limb in the way, which happens. But you learn those hard lessons. But there's always something that can get thrown at you. But a lot of my setups and my shots are really close range, 20 yards and under. So there's really no excuse for me to be missing any animals. The one I did miss was a longer poke for me. I don't shoot 35 yards. This deer here was so close that, I could probably stab them with a spear and that just should not happen. And that's the kind of stuff that kind of hurts, Yeah. And I'm not going to start saying I was blaming, but that year I had some some major health issues, was burnt out. I have sleep apnea. I haven't slept in probably 2 years. So it was like I was going to war and having sleep deprivation. And, it was a brutal, probably the most brutal season I've had over the years last year. And I still ended up getting a couple deer on video, but not the one that I really wanted. So that stings,
Yeah. I haven't been in that exact scenario, but similar, and I know how that feels. You mentioned that when you're setting up a location like that, like virgin sits, your brand new setup every time. One of those points that I always struggle with, I don't know if struggle with, but like in the moment kind of feels like torture, is when you are trying to pick the right tree in that scenario and you're thinking through all the possible things that could happen. Well, there could be a deer that could come down this trail, but there's also a chance they might cross there, and then they might do this. How do you approach that decision?
You're probably overthinking that scenario, and that's probably what I get down to the more brass task. I'm not really an overthinker. The year I killed that real good one in Wisconsin, we finally checked the cameras. Me and a buddy were at the Walmart. We put the film in there, and all boom, the deer's back. And my buddy gets paralyzed. He's stuttering. What are you going to do? I said, I'm getting my shit together. I'm going in that swamp and killing him. That's what I said, and he was just lost on. He didn't know what to do, So I just go to it. I need an animal that's there, and then just go after him, hunt him down, read the sign, just keep on him. And then it changes up as the seasons and different things happen. But if he's there and he's living on the ground you got, there's probably no reason why you shouldn't get at least an opportunity after that, especially the amount of time I hunt and stay on it. Now, in between that, there's tons of other animals, good animals that are passed up that you run into. The big problem I had last year with that scenario is I was running into, and that's something I guess there's something that I could get a little better on. I'll be scouting around for that animal, and I run into something as nice or bigger, and I already got like a certain animal kind of close to figured out where you're getting close, and it's like, screw that, I'm jumping on this one because it's here now and the time's right. It might be coming from a neighbor's property or whatever. Yeah. So I'm like a kid in a candy store, and last year was one of those years. There was a lot of really nice bucks around, and being able to have multiple tags. I'm thinking, cocky sucker, I'm going to dive in here for 2 days, kill this one, and then I'll get back on that one, that type of thing. And then by the time you get back to the other one, things are changing up and moving, and you got to start reworking it. So I put on a ton of pressure on these animals, but the spot that I picked to set up is clean. I read all that sign going in right to about where I think it's going to happen, and then from there on, from where that deer's going to be coming through to there, he ain't got a clue until he has to get by me, and then he, get the scent of all the shit that happened, or me walking around. And I never let other deer, like you were just talking about, well, what if something comes this way? Yeah. Or this scenario, I focus in on that deer, and I don't give a shit about anything else. I don't care about screwing up other deer on the way in. I don't, if I got that one pinned down, I know where he's coming to and going from. I just stay focused like a laser on that scenario, so I don't let a lot of other stuff cloud my mind.
And when you're picking a spot or setting up your stand, do you have like one place? Like, man, my highest probability of where I think that buck's going to come through is like this one spot, and then you set up 100% for that and say like that's what he's going to do, and I will be perfectly prepared for that. The rest of the possibilities be damned. Is that your approach?
Yeah. On that particular day and that setup that I read the sign, I pick it. I tried that years ago. Tried to hog big areas.
Yep.
To be able to shoot out further, put an extra pin on my bow, cover 60 yards instead of 40 or 35 yards, both ways. When I say 35 yards, I mean the whole swatch, not 35 this way, 35 that way. And it's always come back to bite me. And the one thing I've learned over the years is I picked the frickin' spots. These deer ended up coming right to my, almost like a deer magnet. They come right to where I want them to come. So it's 15-yard shot on an animal that size. You put a pin on his chest. There's a lot of area around it. It's very, very easy to get it done, So, I don't do that trying to cover, major spots or that. I kind of focusing on one good kill, get the wind right there. Everything's perfect. Sometimes I'll opt for a little further away opportunity if I think I get right on the edge of a bad wind or a wind that could be crucial. So you just want to set up the best opportunity for me to get a shot at that deer. And that's all you need is that one opportunity. I call it, capturing one moment in time. That's all it takes.
So I got to believe that 30, 40 years ago, it probably was harder for you to know that perfect spot, perfect time, perfect setup. I'm sure there's been a lot of evolution for you there. And I'm curious, if you were to look back over all the years, over all the decades you've been doing this, is there any single change you made or choice you made that has made like a huge impact on your success, that like took you from an okay deer hunter to a great deer hunter? Was there any shift that you made at some point that was like that fork in the road?
I think it was a slow burn all the way. I was a trapper. I really look at things different. I'm dyslexic. I really tear apart and dissect everything, whether it's mechanical or in the field or sign that I read. And I'm really attuned to it. So even years ago, I was a big field edge hunter. I could go walk a field edge. It could be an 80-yard or 80-acre open fields. I could walk the whole edge and just about 100% be on the right trail with the biggest buck coming out and get my crack or get an opportunity. I didn't capitalize all of it because I wasn't all that great of a shot. I still ain't that great of a shot, to tell you the truth, which I'm going to work on this year. I got a new white, and I'm going to start
there you go.
Start practicing a little bit more. I was never one for – I'm not a guy that likes to shoot bows or archery. But I would say the biggest thing that I've learned over the years is this is not a team sport. Hunting whitetail with a bow is it's a lone wolf sport. And the more guys going in, the more guys mudding up the water. It's just like what me and my son know. We hunt a lot of the same properties. He's got all the tools I got, but I don't know what he's doing or where he went. I know exactly where I went. I went covered a whole 40 acres, ran all over. I know everywhere I stepped, everywhere I went, everywhere I kind of boogered it up. So I want to get my virgin sit. I might be sitting on a virgin sit that I think's a virgin sit, and he might have been running around just inside that all over. I might have been the opposite.
Right.
And we're kind of messing each other up. So we'd like to, you're going to hunt the north side today. You go. Don't come burning up and reading all the sign on my side and then go hunting the north side. Just take your area, take my area. Now, as the day goes by, or if it's a couple days, then it's all, everything. Every day is a new day. So you go read it. And I used to laugh on a lease I had in Illinois. I was so much all over that, chasing these deer around and just staying on their asses. These big bucks would come out and they literally had a look on their face like, where the hell is this guy today? Type of look like, I know he's in here. And they're moving through this property because they live there and they gotta. And I would be putting that type of pressure on them. So really aggressive, now more of a controlled aggression. I think I know a little bit more than I knew in the past. My curiosity was always the peak of why I learned a lot of poking around, getting a little too close. I don't know how many times in my career I've literally walked within 5-10 feet of huge bucks still in their beds. And then I was just ready I seen what I wanted to see. I was just ready to like turn around and leave. And I'd turn the opposite way and I'd freaking run face to face right up with these damn things. You'd make eye contact and they just bust out of there.
They're gone.
So that was a saying I had too. You never know how far you could take it until you take it too far. Well, that's taking it a little far, but some of these deer, they get up early enough, but they don't move out of a little safety area. And if you're out of that little zone, you might as well be a couple 100 yards away because you're not killing them until they get out and move out of there. So seasons change that, weather's changed that. There's a lot of things. So you just work those scenarios. And at least I'm to the point now that I really ever second doubt anything I see, read, or my setups. Again, same scenario that I did there. I should have did this. I could have did that. I probably would have just had to handle it the same, and maybe fate could have took over and did something different. But I don't feel I made the wrong move. I just feel I failed in my completion of that task. Couple inches off.
Can make all the difference. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So what about it sounds like that was a slow burn over many years. You've gotten to this point now where you just so much confidence in your instincts. Has there been any recent change? Like, has there been any recent new belief or idea or habit you've picked up on in the last 5 years or so that's made a big difference for you?
No, because actually, so I kind of backed. I don't know. I backed off. I've hunted all my life, every year, harvested deer every year. In the last 10 years, I think I kind of, when I went at it hard, I was hunting out of state, doing a lot of hunts, really aggressively going after deer. I normally wouldn't even hunt a property that didn't have a caliber deer that I wanted. I've done that. I've waited around, deer don't, sometimes something different will show up here, but there's nothing worse than hunting. You got all this land, these acres to hunt, and there's not a deer on there you'd want to hunt. That's horrible. That's like being in prison. So, and I've done that a couple. And you shouldn't do that. If you want to shoot whatever you want to shoot, you should be on a trail, in a woods, on a trail where an animal that caliber's moving through. Yeah. Imagine the success you'd have of hunting 40, 50 days out of a season if every setup you're basically pretty close to being in the game. It brings your numbers way through the roof. I went down to Illinois last year for the first time, Elise, and hunted. Had some cameras out, had some of the other guys' intel. There was a huge buck there. Went down just what I was knowing. I dove a little too deep in, but I set up and I almost played it safe on this one. I picked a tree because of the wind. One off. If I'd have picked the original tree, the one that I should have, I'd have killed a 220-inch freaking buck. So I had to sit in video and watch him. And the problem with that is I'd never done this either. I was going to go there, harvest a decent one on video, get back to the buck in Iowa that I wanted to chase, this one that I missed. So now that scenario's out for the whole day. Now I got a deer there that if I'm hunting there, it's like him or nothing. So now it's a struggle between, do I run to Illinois to shoot that one, or do I go back to Iowa to chase this one? And I hate that scenario because I just, like I said, I wanted to go there, take a decent buck, get it on video, and get the hell out and get back to work here and stay on it. So I did come back and kept hunting here, and then I think I ended up there late season, or in the rut for a little bit, hoping to get that. That deer disappeared. Ended up, I think, on a neighbor's property. I don't know the scenario, but it's like now that when you're going there, chances are not real good that you're going to get an opportunity coming in for a weekend here or there to get a shot at that deer again, especially with like 5 or 6 other guys hunting and then neighbors and that. So you did it because you might get a crack at it, but I wanted to stay on that one deer. That was the one I really wanted on goal. So I spent most of my time on that buck there. It's a love-hate type of thing, It's almost like it's more of it's not a fun type hunt. I know a lot of guys enjoy hunting, and it's a lot of fun for them. Last year was the most agonizing. How can I even describe it? I mean, I literally, I shouldn't even say this, but I literally passed out a couple times in the woods, literally physically was just spent, completely out of gas. And I just pushed on. I just pushed right on through it and kept on it. And I was getting so aggressive. I was getting down in prime time hunting at 8 o'clock in the morning and just scouting like a maniac. And I was coming up with all kinds of other nice deer, different deer and scenarios. So I was really, I guess I was trying to rush it really a lot last year. I wanted to get a couple good ones down. Our 40th was coming in there. I wanted a kind of big year for the show and stuff. And I probably took it a little too fast. My normal mode is an aggressive, kind of methodical deal, and I think I was really almost in a hurry to get something shot and move on to the next and move on, which I shouldn't have done. I should have stayed focused on that one deer.
Do you have any specific ways you're going to try to address things differently this year?
Well, this year my health issues have been all back in line now. I'm working out again, getting back in shape. The age deal, I come to the assumption last year. Last year I grew old. I mentally, basically, submitted to. I'm not the guy that I used to be. I'm not Cody anymore, running around top physical shape. I got a lot of energy. I think I run a lot of guys 30, 40 years old on the ground, even still to this day, but I'm not the machine that I was in the past. And I just, that was a big hurdle to mentally accept that this is the next step down now. So you're going to have to hunt a little smarter, I guess. I started in frickin' Kentucky in 100-degree weather. I think I had over 100 days of morning and evening sets, plus scouting every day. I mean, I was running myself completely frickin' into the ground, and then not sleeping on top of it, or eating good, So that's going to stop next year. So I've decided I can't do that anymore. So hopefully I could pick out a good deer to chase. Hopefully there's not a bunch of different ones that can be pulled different directions, and I can stay focused and stay on that one task, and then move on from there.
Yeah. So if now that you are kind of in this new phase where maybe you can't hunt quite as hard as you used to, but you mentioned you want to hunt smarter, maybe. What does that look like? Like, what's an example of how you might actually put that into action this year?
I'll have to make the decision that if there's two good deer, I can't be running all over, running down to Illinois for a couple of days, running back up here, running Wisconsin, running around like a chicken with my head chopped off, or a kid in a candy store. I'm going to have to try and stay focused on, now that deer's back here this year. That'll trump probably something even bigger anywhere else. Because now there's a debt to be paid, and I think that deer owes me another crack. So I want to stay on that deer. Hopefully it doesn't get killed by somebody else or whatever, but I'm praying that the deer's back on the property and I can stay focused on him. And again, that he's as big as he was or maybe bigger. But again, I think that one from Illinois is back too. So it's going to be who knows what the hell that thing could turn into, this year. But, this one's going to be number one on my list here. So stay focused, stay on this one, get the job done on this. And then from there you can go take it easy and hunt another state or go hunt a different buck, So.
Okay.
But there won't be any less days in the woods, probably.
Won't be less days. Okay.
No, and they're, I'll probably still, from opener right on through to late, I basically will be in that field every day that I can. So.
How do you maintain that? Like, how do you maintain stamina? How do you maintain that level of pushing it without losing focus, without losing energy and passing out like you talked about?
Well, last year I couldn't. Like I said, I had some major issues with the sleep apnea and things of that nature. So in a normal type of a year, I just maintain. I've been like that all my life. We'd run wind sprints in the football team, and I'd be the last guy freaking running. Everybody else would be puking and done, and I just keep going. I just had that kind of energy, and I love to be in the woods. I can't stand sitting still in a tree stand and sitting in one spot. I need to see what's over the next hill, what's around the next bend, what's up the river. I'm a constant information junkie. I need all kinds of pieces of puzzles in my mind. I have to be able to visualize it and see it in a stand if I can't. That's why I can't run into a stand. A preset stand, I even want to look around a little bit on a preset to make sure that the sign's there. And I've been in trees already that I jumped in and it's like I'm taking my binoculars to look and see, Jesus Christ, is this hot enough here? Am I wasting a frickin' night or a sit?
Yeah.
And you'd think with all the time I have in the woods, that wouldn't be an issue to waste it. But one day gone is a day that can't be taken back, and that plays into success. The numbers of times you sit, the numbers of times you sit in the right spot. So I'm always, if I'm scouting and setting up and in a tree, that tree is the right tree for that day and that wind in the game. I've had numerous friends years ago down in Illinois. They all just jump up in a tree that I just left for dead and left, and they go in there and shoot 150, 60-inch buck out of the damn thing, and they're happy as a lark. And I'm seeing them, and I'm moving on. I'm moving on toward, the one that I'm looking for. He's not there, so I'm kind of squeezing her down and checking other areas. And I've been, the start of all this, I've had so many guys, back in the day it was, hunt high and stay the hell out of there, give them safe zones. I don't give anything a safe zone. If that deer is living on that ground, he's going to have to contend with me coming after him, I'll do a slow setup a couple times on an evening pulse, try and work it where, I always said, if you find where he sleeps, you can kill him, right? So if you got that piece of that information, that bedding where he's at, the further out you get from that, it's a tougher to get them. So the closer and the more intimate you can get on that, your chances are better. So you've heard of these 2-3 day cycles on bucks, where guys will see them every 2-3 days. Well, guess what, dude? There's a everyday cycle somewhere, and if you can find that spot and be on that edge, your percentages come up. He might be on another property you can't get to, but he may be somewhere you can, and then you want to be in the game and get your crack. There's nothing worse than knowing where deer's at, having them there, and you backpedal and you never get up the bat, you never get to take a swing. So that's tough for guys. That's like diving in cold water. Guys really find it difficult to do some of the things I do. It's like they just can't get themselves they think they're going to just mess it up for good, and I thought that way years ago. There's a big hat that went off. The more I did it, the more my success went up. The more aggressive I got, the more deer I jumped, the more I bumped, the more I got into the game. I was covered up with deer constantly all year when other guys were just flat in the October lull, or just not seeing the deer because they're not going and chasing, not hunting them. They're waiting for the deer to basically come to them instead of you going to the deer. So,
well, you might have just answered my next question, but feel free to go a different direction if you want to. But my next question was going to be, what is an unusual habit or belief that you have that most other deer hunters think is absurd or crazy, but helps you as a deer hunter? Would it be what you just described, or is there something else?
They always come back. The guys think they bought these big deer and they go leave somewhere. They go nocturnal. They start playing a game, start running circles around you. But if you are hunting in their home range, you're not burning them out of there. And I'm not. Here's where it might be a little different. I'm hunting the top dog, the dominant bucks. Not some of them that are out. When I say they're the dominant, they're the kingpin in that area. There might be a deer there that's more aggressive and as dominant, but they are a dominant buck in the area. They get their areas where they feed, they get the breed, they get the best of it. That's their home. They're not leaving because of you. No, they're a buck. You see these studies about that they're talking about these deer that the ranges that they put these collars on. Those are 2.5-year-old buck. A 2.5-year-old buck can't find a place to bed anywhere. Every knob it goes on, it gets its ass kicked by a 3.5, 4.5-year-old buck. So They got to go wander around and go find where they want. Top dog, these big deer that I hunt, they are in them same bedding areas for different winds, and they work for them, and that's where they are, and that's their. Nobody else gets that best spot. They get it. So I find those best spots and I get it. It could be just a property like this, there's a square mile. You could have all your bucks on one section of it. You could be hunting on the other section. There still could be decent sign in that, but you're not seeing shit, and they're not there. You got to go to where the deer are. And when you go in where the deer are, you end up seeing a lot of deer. In the morning, bumping them. I'm bumping deer. I'm not going to go hunt. It's too noisy. I pray to God that I'm bumping all kinds of shit when I'm in, because I know I'm in the game. I'm in a bunch of deer then. I don't want to go to somewhere it's like a ghost town. There's no signs and tracks and waiting for it to happen. That's a different type of hunter. That when it gets into the rut, you can do some crazy stuff like that. But in an on rut, you got to go with, I'm old school. I read sign. I stay on sign, and I believe what my eyes are telling me. I don't, all the stuff you read in years past that, they'd say you can't do this, you can't do that. I've never was a big guy to follow that. I just cut it on my own, and I learned it on my own. And it's, a lot of that stuff's just, I don't know what you'd call it, but I know it works, and I'll stick with what's working for me,
Yeah. What would you say is your very most important habit? Whether it's in your daily life or during hunting season, what's that thing that you always have to do over and over and over again for you to be effective?
For hunting deer?
I mean, maybe it's something in your regular life that maybe isn't obviously deer hunting related, but helps you.
It's whatever I'm doing, whatever I'm thinking about, I design a lot of products. I do things that there's a whole half of that brain that while I'm doing all that is always thinking whitetail and where the next thing is and what, where that deer traveled last year, what he did, what time he was coming out at this time of year and certain things. Was he one that just bust loose? These really big deer, weather over anything, get a good cold front coming and shit. It changes the scenario on that one. That, I pray for a season that the ambient temperature is colder than it normally is. Not one of these hot, horrible seasons that it's. So I'm thinking this all out in my mind all the time. That's all I think about is deer. I don't go out and do a lot of messing around now. I don't need to, because even when I'll have intel on cameras and that, I'm still a scouter constantly all year, early season, reading the sign, of what's going on. And, your head's always in the game. It's always thinking and you're thinking bigger. Okay, where am I going to have an opportunity at the biggest deer this year? Nothing on this ground. So I got to leave this for dead until something pops up and I go to the biggest. And sometimes there aren't anything bigger than you're looking for. And then you settle for the next best one or settle to get a good video or however it is. But I've always been one to just stay focused to. Quick story. So years ago, Adam Hayes came to me and some other people to start a hunting show. Mm-hmm. And I told him, I says, this is how Whitetail Addictions actually came about. I am going to run into a deer I want, and I ain't killing any deer that year. I'm going to stay on that. You're not going to get any kills out of me. I can't run to 6 different states and shoot meteor bucks just to get them on film. I'll go there and I'll shoot some decent deer that are worthy of shooting. But if I got something I'm looking for, my season's done. Like this one here, I would have been locked up. The whole season burnt. You ain't going to get no show out of me. So we made a decision to make a show about our customers, which are all great hunters. And they submit footage and we get kills out of them. You get 1 kill out of me, maybe 2. And then now you got a show full of a bunch of kills because there's a bunch of guys hunting. Some of these other guys that, this whole show's on them, they're running around just shooting just for entertainment, mediocre bucks, and then try to look excited about it when they're doing it. It wasn't going to happen. So I'm still like that to this day. I want what I want. And when I first shot my Pope and Young, it became a numbers game. And I don't know why in my mind, I was always an athlete. And when there's a bar and a goal to set, you work different. You're not scattered all over the place. I started hunting bigger deer. And if there wasn't a bigger deer on that property, then I just didn't hunt it. And I went until I found a property or a spot that had the bigger deer. Then I'd hunt it, kill it. Then it would be bigger, and then I'd have to go. I might go back to the other property, had a bigger one. And I've said it numerous times. I think I've even said it on podcasts, but a lot of people don't know from 125 and like an eighth, my first deer, all the way up to that first Boone and Crockett, the score of the deer I harvested every year never went backwards. It went up. Every deer that was killed every year was a little bigger score. One year I passed up a buck, was like 155 class deer 3 different times just to shoot a 160. I already had a 155. So it's like, what are you out of your mind? Shoot that. I only got 1 tag. So if I'm a gold setter, this is what I want. Then it got to the point where I shot that first 170-inch animal, and then it was like, then another light bulb went off. Wow, this is kind of nice. This is another level, and and you start just looking for 170 plus, and then you get to the point where you're running a rope and there's not a lot bigger, or the chances of them being bigger on the ground you have is not real great. I'm lucky enough that we have some good properties that produce some real slammers just about every year. So there's something there to go excited about. I traded all back for the first. I wish I had that rack here. I have it in the garage. I could show you. I just went and did some digging around. I got my first whitetail buck with a bow. It was I don't even know if you could put a score on it. If it was 60 inches, it was an 8-pointer that you could put a grapefruit in its rack.
Yeah.
And I didn't give a shit about big deer back then. I wanted to shoot any deer, and I loved that. And that whole time on public land, going up to them deer instead of getting into that 140 class, it was just awesome. I just was hooked on it. Didn't get about it until it got about score. Then it started getting about more of a work type of thing. There was a scenario. I was up north, hunting public land, and there was a non-typical, it was the first virgin snow of the year. Went in the woodlot, there was two bucks chasing a doe around. One was a tiny little buck off the quarter of this big non-typicals ganting around. It was just about toppling over. So the immensity of that deer would have been a state record at that time. And at that time, I seen two deer chasing around a doe. That's all that was. And literally, I shot the smaller one when they came by. The smaller one came close, and I shot it. If that scenario ever happened like today or later on in my career, I would have went and moved up north and never came back, seeing my wife and kids until that deer. I'd hunt that deer to the ends of the earth. And things have changed. So that's how it is now. It's not about just the enjoyment of harvesting a deer, which you're bowing at. It turned into harvesting good animals. And I like a challenge. I do like a challenge. I don't want a deer that just topples over. So it's nice when there's one kind of outwitting you and outsmarting you, or outlucking you, maybe. I don't know what the word is, but
something. Yeah.
But yeah, you got to remember there's 40 years of this, so there's a lot of different scenarios. I went through the whole deal with scents, the whole thing with all this rattling, all this other stuff, and it all just boiled back that I learned what I learned, and I stuck with what was learning. I know guys who rattle deer every year. I can rattle, and I tested rattling. I can rattle in tons of bucks. For the ones I want, it just seems like your best opportunity for me is when they ain't got a clue. When they step into a setup, they just do not have a clue that somebody's there on top of them. And then they get to make that mistake of just coming through that day, But yeah, so I guess I learned a lot over the years. So,
well, Andrae, there's so many people I've talked to over the years who point to you as being someone that they look up to, or that they've learned a lot from, that they view as, an elite deer hunter. And I'm curious, is there anybody that you look to, or that you have learned from, or someone that you look at as like, man, that guy is really good and I've learned some stuff from? Is there anyone you can point to like that?
I can't say I've learned anything from anybody, but back in the day, years ago, I just thought Miles Keller, he had the state record for the state of Wisconsin. He's a little older. He was at the shows. I always kind of admired him. He was killing some really good deer consistently. Never prescribed to his methods. And then there was the guy that turned out to be and ended up a hoax or whatever in Michigan, the Rampala, when he was on the scene. I just remember shooting these tiny deer and starting to get into a couple of Pope and Youngs that I thought to myself, holy shit, this guy is... I thought that was amazing that somebody would be out there and that's all they were looking for, $170. I thought, I didn't know. Our state record was 177 inches, so it's like they're not even out there, So that was the guy that I kind of looked up to that, but never, thought about or looked about it was his hunting style or what it was like that way. It's just that way wise, but I don't think, because I didn't read a lot of magazines, I didn't listen to a lot of people. I basically took this sport up on my own, started out running after deer with a recurve on the ground, flinging arrows, to climbing into trees and finding success more from elevated positions, and just it evolved from where I started. So I think a lot of my hunting style and technique now has probably been adopted by a lot of guys, and a lot of guys that I learned that a lot of these guys were younger than me that I sold them their first stands and that, and the guys you're talking about, I actually become friends with, and I hunt now with some of these younger crew, and it's amazing to me that like one would kill, like Keith killed a huge buck on one of our leases, and he told me where I killed it, and it's amazing to me. I said, how did you access that spot? And he access, and normal guys, a lot of guys that would have not even thought, and it was obvious. You had to do this and go there. He went the same route that I took to ambush a deer on that same spot. That's the spot that you have to access, and he learns that. People learn that by just hunting. And then some of the guys that when they first started out, some of the tiny deer they shot, you got Heath Cisco, and you got Justin Hollingsworth. So I visited some of their homes now years later, and I am impressed with the wall. Guys used to come into my house and, just about pissed their pants, and they stand there in awe. And it happened to me. So this is how many years have gone by. So a lot of these guys have become, now they're 20 years in, serious hunters. They learn the game, and they're successful every year. And they got what worked for them, and they're doing it. Same with Cody. I don't know how it's been probably decades since we've hunted together. We haven't hunted. He fucking ran off, excuse my language, ran off his own and was doing his own deal. And I remember my father-in-law came out to the houses, and he was over by Cody's looking in his living room, and these are some pretty nice deers. And then he came over to my house, was in the living room, and I'm standing there watching this guy in the middle of the living room looking up in there, and he's like, I said, what the hell's the problem? He was like just dumbfounded. He said, boy, there's some decent deer over, but holy shit, these are really big deer because of the caliber. I had the same moment a couple years back, as Cody had been stacking up on his own and doing his own hunting and not having the money for taxidermy. He's had racks sitting around, and all of a sudden he's getting them done. I walked in his living room, and I was impressed of the caliber and the amount of deer on the wall. And I was impressed with friends of mine, my own son. So there's guys that really stepped up to the plate and are doing it. And a lot of them, I think, kind of adopted some of the technique that I had years ago, which is, to me, it's great, but stay off the head. When we're on the same lease now, it's just not so great. So,
Yeah.
they're kind of doing the same kind of thing. It's getting a little crowded, So,
Yeah.
But no, I appreciate that that is there. But I didn't come from hunting background. I came from a family that didn't hunt, so I really didn't have a father to teach me all the wrong lessons. I basically went and learned them all on my own,
Yeah. Well, with all these people we're kind of referencing, all these best deer hunters that you've now surrounded yourself with, what's maybe one of the most common traits or mindsets that all of these best deer hunters all have? Like, can you point to something that is consistent across all of those best of the best people?
Well, their whole lives revolve around whitetail hunting. I met some of their wives. This is a different breed of guy. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are hunters out there. There's decent hunters. They hunt every year. They hunt a lot. But there are people that choose their career, choose their life, choose their partners around whitetail hunting. That's one thing when you get bit by that bug. And then you get some success, and they're smart enough to know you go where the big deer are. There's the big public hunting versus private deal. I hunt public land. I hunt private. There are some world-class deer on public land. I go to where the big deer are. I would never go to an area that's got a shitload of guys and hunting that mess. It's just a waste of time. So 2 years ago, there was a guy that we know here in Iowa. He had pictures of 3 bucks on public land that he was hunting within probably an hour and a half of our farm. And the 3 deer were three bigger deer than any of the biggest deer we had on our farm. So they're there if you find them, but now he's going to have to contend with a bunch of guys that travel and all that. So you got to have a spot that's got them, and then you got to know how to go on them. All of these guys are portable hunters. Here today, gone tomorrow. They read sign, and they set up accordingly, and they're not afraid to move in and make the move to finish it off. So some a little more aggressive than others, but they've honed their trade over the years. I mean, they've been doing this for decades too. And you start out little. Like I said, you're going to see some of the pictures in this 40 year of the tiny little 3-point little bucks that I killed. And I loved every minute of that. That was the start of it all. Christ, guys seen you setting into the North Woods with a recurve for deer, and they're like, they thought are you out of your mind? Are you nuts? What are you chasing deer around with a bow? I mean, I just love to do it, So now that it's a whole, this is huge. It's like everybody and their brother's hunting now, and it's getting a little crowded, So, but yeah, you're more successful hunters. Adam Hayes, he started the whole thing with 200. I remember meeting him at a show. Young kid, he looked like he was barely out of high school, and he's out trophy. I seen the stand. He flipped over it, bought one, and then got every year he'd come back and seen some of the nice deer that he was shooting. He goes after big deer, and the guys sit back, watch. He's an observer. That's another thing that some of these guys are. I'm the same way. You got to be like a big buck. They sit back and they observe what's going on, and you got to sit back and kind of read what's going on. And like a binocular is the most important piece of equipment for me. I mean, I have to not waste a day on post where you might get a glimpse of something and not see what it was. That I just get livid on that when that happens. I couldn't get the box number quick. That could have been the one I was after, slipping out the back, and I missed it. Or if you're sitting there and you can't see it, same thing. You're there hunting, trying to get some intel to move in on these animals. So, and a lot of these guys I'm going to have to say they might have started out as killers, but a lot of them are hunters now. They literally are hunting specific animals, and they're going after that deer. And if it's not there, they go to another specific big animal they go at. At some point in time, you got to fill the wall with a bunch of deer just to make it impressive. But I never was about the numbers. If everybody ever realized the amount and the caliber deer that I passed over the years is just, I got video you'll see on this fourth one of a Boone and Crockett, and that Boone and Crockett that I passed up twice on video back in the day. And they're like, what are you, crazy? Why'd you do that? Because I had one tag and there was a 180-inch 12-point running around. That's why I did it. Those are things that you got to make personal decisions on, whether you're chasing around 200-inch bucks, 170s, world class, or if you just want to fill the freezer with meat, have at it, man. Enjoy the day, Yeah. See a lot of these guys going back to recurves too, I'm not ready to get caught with a recurve in my hand and a world record typical stepping out. I'm not I'm not that guy. Yeah. So we'll wait on that.
Speaking of world record typicals, I know at one point you'd been pursuing that absolute top tier. I know you had state records and things like that. And from what I understand, you've backed away from that a little bit to where now you're killing the best thing around. But what would happen, Andrae, if you did get wind of a buck that you really truly did believe was, man, this could be the new world record typical or something like that?
I'd be all over it.
Yeah. So you'd be all over it.
I believe, to start out with, I've been in the game 2 different times with 2 different bucks that I believe would have beat the typical bull world record. 2 different bucks. And I got beat at them both. But when that comes on and that's it, I moved out of my state to another state to pursue that. So that's what I did. I left my family behind and everybody, and I went and moved to another state to chase a world record typical. That was my ultimate dream, was to get a crack at or a shot at. And you know what the chances are, the miracle of a guy even being in the game for Boone and Crockett, but let alone a world record typical. That's like winning a lotto. I guess I won the lotto twice because I had one on this property in Iowa when I first moved here that I believe would have been right there, and the one in Illinois definitely would have been. So in a career of 40 years, I was on the 2 different bucks I believe that would have been that caliber. Now, I was on a lot of bucks. I screwed up one after I shot that one in Wisconsin. The year after, I almost killed the non-typical state record for Wisconsin. I fucking missed the damn thing at 15 yards. The thing dropped to its belly on me and went over the top. And that deer was just unbelievable. I started thinking to myself, how the hell am I even doing this? How am I even in the game with all these things? And man, if I kill that deer and again, somebody's going to think I'm up to no good or some shit. I'm staying on it, going to where the big deer are. When I find big deer, I go knock on doors. I get permission. Whatever I got to do, I got to go. I want to be in the woods with caliber deer that I want to shoot. Then I'm happier than happy to sit a whole 100 days in a row and just chase them around and maybe not even get them, but at least I'm in the game, Can't stand not being in the game.
So you had 2 chances at deer like that in the past, and they won. Let's say you get chance number 3. There's a third deer that you get wind of and you have an opportunity at. What's the biggest thing you would do different than you did the first 2 times around?
I don't know if I could say there'd be anything different. I got to get, so now is this on a piece that I have, or now I got wind of it where it's on somebody else's ground I got to get access to, or that's going to be a goofy scenario. I'd have to say, I hate to even say it to my friends that hate me, but if there ended up being one on a property that I have that's I lease, none of you guys are getting on for the year. Go find another spot. So there would be that. I might even have to tell my son, if it's my ground, then it's access. This is what I've been here this whole life to do. It's going to be one-on-one with me, and I don't want anybody else around to do it. So that would be one thing that would be kind of, people might think you're a low life for doing or whatever it is, but I'd give up everything, every minute of time I'd spend just going after that. I'd be in heaven again, seventh heaven, trying to get a crack at that deer. But now you got me all excited that there might be a chance for me left. I let that water go under the bridge years ago and gave up on that. There's a lot of big deer that I still got access to hunt, but the typical world record, and you got to be in the right states for it. And then to be, again, there are caliber now being shot just about in every state that are out there, but it's still, dude, there's how many million bow hunters are you in the middle of? Yeah. You talk about the numerical chance of a guy shooting 170 is huge, but it doesn't get bigger for a guy who's done it already. It's actually not a big number for him because he's been in that game, and now it's just like might be just another decent deer for someone, but to have so for me to have another typical world record deer on this property, I would think would be almost impossible for all those stars to line up and to be here. I mean, never say never, but and the idiot I am, last year, if it wasn't for garbage, there was a buck that, if it busted off a couple of times, might have been that caliber. So there are deer out there now that are just amazing. Where the hell they go and where they hike to. But I guess, again, I'm going back to having them on your ground to be able to hunt that's going to be like a winning a lotto type of deal. The one that was here was actually passed through my ground very easily, but was on my lease on one side, and it was on the neighbor's ground that I had permission to hunt on another. And that year, for some reason, I burned up my my state tag early, so I was stuck on my ground with my landowner tag. And there was a local kid here, trapper, that was seeing this deer on another piece I could get on like 6 different times where it was bedding in it. And I was just dying. I'm like, get over here. And the one time he passed through my ground, I didn't have a lot of cameras back then, but I seen him. I was actually getting down to make a move to another stand, and I seen him coming on the ground with a doe, and I went and jumped back in the stand, hoping he would just chase that doe around and get by me, and he never did, and he ended up on a different piece again. So I had my hands just strapped, So there's one screw up that we thought about that we'd never do again. Yeah. I always look at my tags close now, which one I'm filling out first, burning up that statewide tag, So
yeah. So you mentioned earlier some of the mistakes you may have made in the past, or some struggles you made. You mentioned, maybe shooting, maybe being one thing you wanted to work on coming up. So I'm curious, real quick. Let me just throw this out there to have the rest of this. What I want to understand is how you get better at something. Like when you identify something as like a weakness or an area that you can improve on a little bit, what's your process for getting better?
Okay, so here's the problem that I probably had, and it cost me a couple of deer last year too. Equipment. So I don't like to shoot a bow. I shoot low poundage now, so I don't have to. Shooting 70 years ago, or shooting a recurve, you had to have your muscles intact, and you have to consistently shoot to be accurate with a bow. You have to have. I would shoot for a week. First 5 days, you're all over the place. Your muscles get toned, and at 70 pounds, then you're grouping. I don't have to do that anymore. My bow's on. I shoot kind of instinctive through a pin. I can pick up the bow any time of year and just shoot and group enough to shoot these deer at 20 yards. I found myself in a hunt in Illinois where I literally, and I normally shoot an arrow. Usually when I'm onto something good, I'll start shooting an arrow even out of the tree when I leave, or at least one arrow to make sure everything's on. And I checked even the evening before I think I shot, and I pulled my bow up, and the morning I busted my pin off somehow on a step on the way up or whatever. And then I went to shoot and I couldn't find a pin on there, and I ended up hitting this animal in the neck and shit. And I was just freaking irate that I would because I did everything I was supposed to do right, and fate screwed me out of. What are the chances? Yeah. In one sit, you broke that sight on there. Well, this year, because of my issues with fatigue and all that, my fiber optics were ripped out of my sight, and because I don't shoot every day anymore, I didn't even know the fiber optic was out of there. I went to try and find that too, and I couldn't. Blurry vision, getting older. I need a lens probably on them damn things, and it was horrible. I could tell you a couple stories about old age. I went through a season literally probably legally blind one year, and I still filmed and got good footage and killed it. I had the worst cataracts. I was telling my wife, she said, "You're foolish," she's just blowing me off. And I went into a doctor and said, "You got the worst cataract I've ever seen." So I went and I literally shot at a deer, and I'd hate to tell about all these inconsistency of hitting one low. Set up on this deer, went up on hundreds of yards away, and set up on the same deer, and a rainstorm came in, and I was up there, vision shitty, had my binoculars out, and I see a huge buck come up, and he's rattling off all his rain and stuff, and man, I'm going to get some good footage of this thing. I was trying to look in the binoculars, what he was, what kind of tines, and I just never dawned on me it was the deer that I was after. Literally, I got on video, I let that deer come through, walk 5 yards under my stand, and head out, and I could not tell it was even the same deer that I was after. It just, because we have there's a lot of decent big deer here. I went and showed Cody that frickin' video, and we put it on a laptop now, because I was looking at it on my little phone. And he says, you're fricking with me right now, aren't you? And I said, what do you mean fricking with you? I said, that was the buck that you were after. I was frickin'. So he blows the damn thing up there, and I'm like, son of a frickin' bitch. I mean, I can't win for losing. So I went and had surgery the next year. Here's another good story. These guys talk about, I've mentioned this before too, and I'm getting old, so I mentioned stories multiple times, but they're complaining about not having their new tree stand for opening day. This guy did surgery on one of my eyes, and then I had to wait. So opening day, I was literally only had one eye to use and going out hunting. So finally got them both fixed and all that. But that same year, I videoed the deer that I was after, got on him because he was not a big, immense rack. There was other deer that were around I was filming that were decent. Literally, I could have had him at 15 yards, and I probably could have shot him. And I thought he was just a smaller buck. I mean, I was literally out there freaking blind. And with the amount of years that I went with the camera, I know I can literally video with my eyes closed now because I can point the camera at a spot and just blow it back out. And I'm getting great video footage, but it'd be nice to know what the hell you're seeing. So these are all things you're going to all deal with and later on in your life. And it's frustrating because if you hunt at the level I do, it's, man, you don't want to run out of gas. You don't want to have issues like that. God forbid I ever have to start wearing glasses out in the woods again. Biggest handicap any hunter could ever have is to have glasses in the woods. These deer spot you from a mile away with that lens on. So,
right.
Hang on to that for a bit, but no, it's a whole new game. I don't know how long we'll run it, but I'm going to run it to the end. You're probably going to find me dead in the woods with a bow in my hand still. So,
if you got to go, that's not a bad way to go.
Oh no, that'd be the ultimate way to go, actually.
So it seems like with a lot of these different challenges you've mentioned, it seems like your approach to dealing with it, your approach to getting better or handling it is to push through, to just keep working harder, to keep doing the thing, right?
So we started with the equipment, right?
Yeah.
If you want to go your train of thought, and I'll go back to that. So what I'm doing different for that.
Sure. So my next question was going to be, and maybe this will tie into what you're mentioning there, but hard work is a thing that I've heard you kind of bring up, maybe not those exact words, but you've talked about it in different ways. And many, many, many other deer hunters will always point back to that. Well, you got to work hard. Mm-hmm. I'm just curious about what that actually means to you, like how you would define hard work, what that actually looks like for you. Because people hear it and don't necessarily know what it means.
So when I say it's hard work, it ain't easy. You know, I've already had guys, friends that wanted to shoot their first Pope and Young. And I had deer lined up that I could have went and killed. I knew where they were at. And I told them where to go set. And you'll shoot it. The deer's coming out there every evening on a bean field there. Go sit there. You'll kill a damn deer. And he's like, well, is there anything any closer? Or anything? You know, it was a long walk back in from a weird way that it took some work to get in there. And the lazy guy, you know, didn't want to do that type of work. But these younger guys nowadays, I'm not going to mention any names, but I've seen them and I follow them. They think that if you just go out there and just run all over hell and put these miles on, that's going to end up killing you a big deer. If you're just running around there and not absorbing anything or learning anything from it, you're just running around there like an idiot and putting miles on, and everybody's made those mistakes. I did that years ago up in the big woods. I'd go so far deep in thinking I'm getting away, way back in the middle of nowhere, it's gonna be paradise back in. I went so far back in, 2 miles back, I came out in some guy's backyard and shit on highways that, you know, this area with no highways. I'm like, man, all the big deer were up right where I went in, you know. So read the sign and believe what you see and go at it. And there's a amount of hard work, and do the control deal that I do. Do that round work. When I get boots on the ground, I do a new property, a perimeter check. It's a must for me to do a complete perimeter check of a property. I need to get that in my head, a schematic of what's coming in and going out, the trails here and there. And then I can go in and everything that I see inside that makes sense in the middle of it. If I go in the middle of it first, nothing that was out there, it doesn't make any sense to me. It's all just random here, random there, you know, try and read your compass or whatever the hell the deal is. So these guys that, you know, that pick the spots with the maps and all that now, and this, you can't see what I see on a map. And you could pick good spots here from a map on here, the good funnels, and you'd be there. And half the season, they're ice cold and not a deer moving through it. But they're excellent spots on a certain time. You've got to be in real time. The most important thing to me is to be in the game when the game's happening, not a day late and a dollar short, as my mom used to say. And there's guys that can do that, and there's guys that not. They can't read the sign, or they don't even realize what they're looking for. So that's going to have to be something you learn to be able to pick, you know. I used to always argue about that. Well, big buck spot. A big buck's bedding area is where that big buck is bedding. It can be anywhere. There's no defined area to where it's at. I found them in the craziest freaking places you'd never even think to look. And that's where they're bedding. So that's that big buck bedding. Now, maybe next year he dies, and it's not. Maybe another deer moves in, it is. So, but some of these haunts that I find on leases and all that, the lay of the land's the same. If the wind's right and the same, those deer are going to be there every year. It's going to be a good spot that you have to go look at. But it might not be the caliber you want. So it's still a good spot. Still could be hunted every year. But now, you know, talk about scrapes and rubs. You know how many scrapes are on this property? If I burnt a day just to sit one to see what the buck was coming in, that's why I put, you know, cameras on all these. I need to know that scrape has the deer I'm after on it. Now it's a whole nother game. Now that scrape is important to me. So there's a lot, and I enjoy scouting and reading. That's the big thing about it. I love poking around the woods. That is even when I trapped, I'd run a trap line up the middle of the river and stuff, and I just enjoy being out. Claustrophobic, so in the outdoors, and the more time spent out there, the better I feel.
You mentioned hunting something like 100 days a year. Was that including days that you're just scouting too, or is there additional scouting days on top of that 100? Every day that I hunt, I scout. So I don't do, so when I used to, years ago, hunt a lot of that public, I would hunt so hard and so often, I'd almost be like a marathon runner. I needed a cool down period. So what I would do after the season, and like, you know, back then it was December, whatever, it was snowy, cold in Wisconsin, I'd have a cool down period. And then what I would do is I would literally get headphones on, some John Denver playing in my ears, and I would go to these square mile public grounds or some big areas, and I would go in and just, you know, now you're not hunting. You can go anywhere you want, look anywhere you want, and you're not concerned about having a setup here and there. You're just dissecting that area to learn that lay of that land better. And that's how I would cool down. I would enjoy doing that. And I would trap some coyotes and stuff.
foxes back in the day afterwards, just to be able to gear back down. Now in the winter, now you got to go indoors every day and all that shit, and the work, it was horrible for a guy who's kind of likes to be out there. So even now, I just can't stand the office work. I'd rather be out on a tractor, just getting dirty and sweating up a storm and enjoying what life has to offer. You know.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
But yeah, it's
What about
thinking back on it?
another part of the
Okay, the equipment
another part
again.
of the equation?
I just want to go back to that equipment,
Yes.
but I guess I'm so rough on that stuff that I need to pay a little more attention to that. I got a good friend who owned a bow shop for years. He looked at my strings on my bows and just worn to shit and nicked up and all that. And I don't care about that. I can pick that bow up and shoot and hit what I need to hit. And like the pin last year, I drove out and I heard some shit rattling, and it was my pin rattled, or my sight rattled loose on my bow. And I'm like, shit, I'm halfway out there. I got to run back. I could see kind of where it was at. So I had to tighten it back up and take a shot, make sure it was on, and then go back out. I'm hunting with a little better equipment now, dovetails on there where it can be tightened up. I step on my bow when I'm getting on a tree a lot of times, and just because I'm just such thick crap, and half the time the bow might be halfway down, stuck in a limb to get down out of some of these trees. So it's I'm really rough on my equipment, and I need to really start paying more attention to making sure that's the final seal of the deal, which to me was like the least important, which should probably be one of your more important. If I was the shooter that guys were nowadays, or some of these other guys were, dude, you would have no idea the shit that I'd have on the wall if I had that talent to be able to shoot out to 40 consistently and real good. I mean, world-class shit after world-class shit, but I'm here at Kid Limited. Back in the day, we were shooting 185 feet per second with a 6-inch arc at 20 yards, and it was like, and then not very good of a shot and an untuned bow. So I'm gonna start doing that. I think I'm gonna shoot a little bit more every. Not that I'm gonna enjoy it, but I'm just gonna have to force myself to be more consistent. But here's what happens too, and what happened in the past. On a bail or even on a recurve, I'm not that accurate of a shot. But when it comes time to shoot an animal, and it's the scariest part about it, after I shoot, I can't even remember putting a pin on an animal, which is a spook. Man, did I frickin' aim? Did I get it on there? And it's because instinctive takes over, and I look at the spot and I just let her rip. I can shoot animals moving, jogging. Occasionally I'll stop them, but I really don't need to. And after this year, I think maybe I might have to start revisiting some of that stuff. Get a little more consistent with. I went to a peep a few times and went away from it. What a peep will do for you, then it goes to a mechanical and non-instinctive, and it will check you. But a lot of times I don't have that lousy extra second to check that ring in. I need to get her up, get her ripping. It's happening. It's coming through, and get that arrow off. So it's a struggle that way, but I'm going to make sure that maybe the strings are waxed and they're all not cut through, or
That
I go
would
back
help.
to what I used to do: shoot at least an arrow. A lot of times I have one in my quiver. Then when I get down in the morning, I just pick a leaf and shoot. Hit the leaf, you're on. And before you go out, you got to bail. Just fling an arrow into it. Know that everything's, because that's the biggest thing. It's not going to be your shooting ability. It's going to be your equipment got knocked off, a pin, a sight, or something like that. So.
Yeah.
So preparedness, I think you wanted the traits of guys that are good hunters. All of these guys are anal son of a bitches about their equipment, being efficient using it, and having their shit together. Way more than even like I am with some of the stuff with the bowls and all that. So I think that's another big thing that's a guy could key on. But a lot of guys have that ability and not the other. So lesser of the two,
Right. So here's another one that you hear get brought up a lot, and that's mental toughness. How would you say mental toughness factors into your success, if at all? And how would you define mental toughness? Like, what does that look like for you?
You're looking at the mentally toughest son of a bitch you've ever seen in your life right here. So last year, I'll make it public right now. I came to the point where I know somebody who's a really good hunter who went through a season that went to hell, that that gave up on it. Literally, it was too much and gave up on a season. I got to that point like 6 times last year, and I pushed the accelerator pedal. I literally woke up at 2 different times hanging in my safety harness. I passed out cold and was hanging from my tree in my harness and crawled back up on the frickin' stand. I had 2 torn rotator cuffs. I literally could not even get my backpack on without laying on the ground and getting into my stand from a tree. I literally passed out on the way in one morning and woke up in the dark, sat down next to a tree, lost my balance, sat down, and woke up at sunup. I thought I was frickin' dead. And got back up and went up that frickin' hill and got in that tree that I was supposed to be in early that day, because I went in early because that buck was going through there. So as far as mental toughness, you're gonna kill me and drag me out of the woods. I'm not gonna get beat there because I'm gonna just push on. And I was that way probably in the last 2. You get in a fight with me, I'm not losing. You're gonna kill me, or you're losing. I just will not give up. I've never been that guy. I don't know where I got that from. It might have been my mother, to tell you the truth, but I just, and there's some guys out there that are mental toughness, but this is, what I just went through with that buck last year. That deer was one of the biggest typicals I got on the wall. That crushes people, crucifies them. And it did early on for me. I learned that lesson so many years. It's because it's happened numerous times. So you learn to get through it. You almost have to, you build that shield up. But I think that's the shit that gets you coming back for more, man. That if everything's the same humdrum shit and these deer would just roll over and you kill them, what excitement is in that right. Deer, So yeah, it's a big part of the game. Physical, elk hunting, maybe so much. If you're, most guys are a couple weeks a year hunting. The other guys that hunt really serious, like a lot of guys on these pages that really are, they're all year hunters like I was. Some physical shit's gonna come in there, but most of these younger guys are probably in the shape to handle it, But I would think more of that mental toughness to deal with the amount of failure you're gonna deal. Here's another thing I always said: I don't think I've ever failed at anything in my life. Anything I've set my mind out to do, I achieve. I get beat up. I might get knocked down a million times, and I end up getting up and winning the game. Whatever it is I've been at, this is one area I cannot win at. I get my ass kicked every freaking year, and I don't know if I like it or what, but it's the challenge, and it stays challenging. The sport, it's the ultimate freaking sport, I think, is to hunt whitetail with a bow. It's just and then to go after caliber and specific animals, it's like matching your wits with something that's better than you are. So come up empty a lot, but that's what drives me, keeps me coming back for more.
So when you have these moments where you pass out and have to climb back up into your tree, or you fall asleep next to the tree on the ground and you wake up and you're like, holy crap, I am wore the heck out, or you miss that deer, or whatever, all these things that can happen that go wrong, and you don't quit, you never quit, you push through it. What's your internal dialogue? Like, I don't know if maybe you're not the same way I am, but like when I'm in a tough situation.
That stuff has never happened to me before. That was this year that happened. And it'll probably never happen to me again. But my train of thought was, this was going to be my last probably season in the woods. And I was going fricking out with a bang, man. I was going to just hit it hard. I had opportunities. I could have came up with my biggest season this year. And I wanted to end up on that note. And I've failed at that. Like I said, I got a couple kills, but not the ones that I wanted. Had the opportunities at the one I wanted and screwed up. And I can blame it on that physical letdown for me this year, because it was like, I can't even explain to you. There's nobody in their right mind. And if my wife would have known what had been going on, she probably would have tackled me and not let me out the freaking door what was going on. But I was set in my head that I'm going out. And in the condition I'm on, who runs down to Kentucky and hunts some shit like that in that heat, and in all these different states, and just every day not letting up a bit, because I just wanted to run that shit right out of me, and figured and toward the end, I think I did. I think I started getting a little better and getting a little more. I still didn't get the sleep I needed, but it was the mindset I had. Where do you want to go? In a hospital bed and die, or would you rather go out swinging what your passion in life was, And then on top of it, designing like 7 new freaking products myself. The neighbors will come by here occasionally too. When I first retired, for a retired guy, I can't. Every time we come by there, you're up on a ladder, you're you're doing shit. It's like, what am I supposed to do? Go sit in the house and freaking watch TV? I mean, this is getting boring, man. I got to get back into some living, So I'm not going to let the old man in. I'm going to hit it hard this year. Hopefully that deer's back. We got more new products again this year, and then this is 40. I'll start backpedaling a little bit off this business probably in the next couple of years. I got Cody's, running the operation there, and my daughter, and we got some really good people now for whitetail addictions in place. That part of it's I'm able to kind of start letting loose a little bit. Well, it was tough to do for a perfectionist. Nothing's ever good enough, right?
Sure.
So in that point, and maybe we'll get to do a little bit more with the wife and the grandkids. But I'm telling you right now, season comes. You can bet your bottom dollar I will be out there and I will be hitting as hard as I can, I guess. Looking for that next big hit,
Yeah. All right. I've got a couple final kind of rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So I'll give these to you quick, and you can give me kind of a quick first thought answer on it, and we'll knock these out fast here for you. What is a purchase you've made of $100 or less that has most positively impacted your hunting success? So I got
to answer this quick. I got to think about this. A purchase of $100 or less.
So your best $100 or less purchase for hunting gear of some kind that either made you more effective or made it more enjoyable or something.
For gear.
Yeah. What's one budget gear that
is there
actually
anything
made a big difference?
in the archery industry now that's under $100? I'm trying to think.
Getting hard to find that.
God, I'm stumped. That is like an all awakening type.
Well, I'm not supposed to answer questions for you, but something just popped in my mind. Would it be your face mask? Like, I know that's a little thing that has seemed to make a big deal for you.
I make that face mask. I sew them up myself. I got the recipe to do it, to bring it commercially, but it's like there's really not a lot of money in face masks. And what I'll do is everybody starts using them, they'll start killing all kinds of shit too. So I figured I'd just sit on that. But so one of my most important things, that's the key thing. Optics again. Binoculars are very, very. I can understand how guys can even hunt without a set of binoculars on them, but guys do because they want to take the extra weight, and maybe they got great vision. But even when I had great vision, it's still an important thing. But you answered it for me, but it didn't cost. They don't cost a dime because I just tear an old blind up to shoot through material and get some. I sew too, by the way, and very talented in that area. So. We'll end it at that you answered that for me, because I can't think of anything that's like I said.
Well, how about this? Here's a slightly different version of that. If you had to give up all of your high-end gear, like all of the tree stands you've made yourself, all of the equipment that you've designed over the years, the bow you bought or got, all your top tier stuff. I know you've got a lot of high quality hunting gear, but if you had to get rid of all the top tier stuff and replace it with bare bones, budget friendly stuff. So if you had to go to Walmart and just get Walmart camo, a Walmart bow, a Walmart everything else, all your stuff was going to be entry level, except for one category of things. Like you could have one high end thing. Would you want a high end optic, a high end bow, high end tree stand, high end camo, high end something else? What would be the one thing that you would absolutely have to?
I'm going to have to say this, and I'm not saying it because it's loaded and I have a tree stand company, but I've said this before, even when I had a wood tree stand back in the day starting, that I would rather take to the woods with just my stand and equipment than my bow. I think for me, it was the most important piece of equipment. I was with a 2-piece climber back in the day. And to this day, it'll be the same. I could go get a bow. The bows I shoot, the arrows I shoot, they frickin' come in and they laugh at what the hell is that? It's like, that's all this is doing. It's going to seal the deal. I just got to take this arrow out of this bow that's freaking 25 years old that I've been shooting forever, 54 pounds, and I got to hit that target at 15 yards. I can do it. I can't go in the woods ever again with a noisy tree stand or clinking and clanking around or having to worry about shifting my weight when the deal is sealed and the moment of truth is there. Could never go back to that. Once I got through that, dude, and did not have to worry about, because that's what it was back in the day. I mean, I'm talking decades ago, is that I would get on these big animals and stuff and so intimate, and it's like 10, 15-yard shots, a pressured deer, and man, your arrow rest, there's some little noise, a scuff on material. Mm-hmm. One material is 100% different than a scuff of another material. Why does it one light up a deer and one not? The squeak of aluminum in a tree stand lights up generations of whitetail. I don't know what it was about them, but it'll light them up and get them heading for the hills. So, so I would say a bow, I could go pick up a bow anywhere. I could pick up a recurve and shoot a recurve consistent. I could go pick up a 30-pound fiberglass bow like we started out with back in the day, and I know I can go out and kill a deer with it. So I think I would. I'd want my stand equipment to be what I've been hunting out of my.
Yeah.
Could be the older line of stands. Doesn't have to be the newer line of stands, but I really like the newer stuff that we're doing now. So.
Nope.
Hope that answers that.
Right.
In a roundabout way.
No, it does. And I can understand your perspective too. A quality stand or way to get up there, quietly, effectively, that's so important. All right. Last question. If you had to distill your approach to deer hunting or pick your single most important piece of deer hunting advice that you want to share with the world, and if you had to put it on a billboard on the side of the road next to like a Cabela's or Bass Pro Shops that everyone's going to drive past this billboard on their way, what would that most important message be? That phrase or a few words or that one thing you want to leave with people?
That's easy. Hunt like a wolf. And that's exactly what I do, man. I put my nose into the wind, quartering it, and I go after them and hunt like a wolf. Every day is different. The game's different. Go get them. Just get out there and mix it up, man. 100%.
Hunt them down. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great line. That really is. I love it. So, Andrae, where can folks go to see the show and the content you guys make these days? What should folks be looking for from Lone Wolf Custom Gear? Is there anything you want to tell people about as far as product or content?
Yeah. So this year we got a whole new line of sticks coming out. We had a new stand come out, the hybrid. You can see that. You can go on to our YouTube channel and see all the Whitetail Addictions programs from, and you'll want to see some of those old original number ones and that. But this year we'll have 18 episodes. Something we've done this year different than others. We partnered. You can see who the sponsors are. We partnered with some different people. A lot of our guys are serious guys, and a lot of them use a lot of the same. They've all keyed in or adapted to a lot of these sponsors that we've had. It's stuff that we've been using already, so it's an easy fit. So you'll be able to see 18 episodes of Whitetail Addictions on there. I have a new broadhead we'll be sending some commercials out with now that's totally different, way out from what's out there. An aluminum broadhead, believe it or not. That's you'll see my kill from this year, 265-pound buck, and it's at 54 pounds. It's the hardest hitting head you're gonna ever see. And when you see the kill, you'll see why. Through both shoulders, just about came out the other side of the animal, and the thing lets out a roar like it was hit with a freight train. So we also have those road shows going. You'll be able to check the schedule on that. That's Cody's and Jake's gig there. We're still accepting and will other applicants for Whitetail Addictions. So if somebody wants to get the self-filming, we have new camera arms, they're even smaller, lighter. Everything we got is small and as light as you can get now. I apologize we didn't get all these new products out early at the ATA show like we do, but from here on in, we don't do that anymore because everybody copies what we do at the ATA. And because we're hunters and we're not prepared there, and it takes us a long time to get that out to market, other companies are able to take our stuff and get it there quicker. So now what we're doing is, you're going to see it now here in the next month, some of the new stuff, groundbreaking equipment, and we'll have a year on them, So it's a kind of a weird world out there. But what else was there? I think that's it. We got Lone Wolf Custom Gear. We're bringing the brand back, Lone Wolf, for another line of stands coming. So there's a lot of good things coming. I think we do have a page, Mobile Hunters United. You can go on there and chat with a lot of similar-minded guys, a lot of serious hunters. You can talk about equipment, talk about hunting. And that's amazing. I sit back and just read a lot of that, and it's amazing. Some of the guys, a lot of guys are really attuned to. So back in the day when I was all about equipment and changing up gadgets, guys are like that now. It's all hunting and equipment, so they're orientated. And then podcasts like your guys, we're listening to them all the time, enjoying them. It's a whole different world now. We don't sit in front of a TV anymore or watch those hunting shows. We sit and listen to what's going on out there from the guys out there getting it done or in the field or attempting to. But I appreciate all you guys are doing. So, and that you take the time to listen, because we're a little long-winded here.
No, this has been great. We got everything we could have hoped out of this conversation. I think a lot of interesting insights, and folks are gonna learn some interesting lessons from this one. So thank you, Andrae. I appreciate you making the time for it. Can't wait to see how this season goes for you. All right, and that is a wrap. Thank you for joining me today. Hopefully you learned something here as we try to dive into the mindset of the whitetail master known as Mr. Andrae D'Acquisto. I appreciate Andre's time. I appreciate your time. And until next time, stay wired to hunt.